our right hand bring us closer to our godliness. May our left hand give us strength to face each day. And before us may our visions light our paths ahead. And behind us may well-being heal our way. May our right hand bring us closer to our godliness. May our peace bring us strength to face each day. And before us may our visions light our paths ahead. And behind us may well-being heal our way. All around us is Shekhinah. 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 May our right hand bring us closer to our godliness. May our left hand give us strength to face each day. And before us may our visions light our paths ahead. And behind us may well-being lead our way. All around us is Shekhinah. May our Rosh is Shekhinah. All around us is Shekhinah. May our Rosh is Shekhinah. May our right hand bring us closer to our godliness. May our left hand give us strength to face each day. And before us may our visions light our paths ahead. And behind us may well-being heal our way. All around us is Shekhinah. All around us is Shekhinah. All around us is Shekhinah. All around us is Shekhinah.
Shabbat Shalom. You know, it is still Shabbat until we kindle the Havdalah candle. It is still Shabbat. Bruchim Abayim. Welcome. Welcome to this sacred space, and welcome to this most sacred time in the Jewish calendar. It's been interesting, you know, this theme that has appeared to me over the month of Elul. The month of Elul is the month we find ourselves in right now. They are the 4 weeks leading up to Rosh Hashanah. And the month of Elul begins every year with a unique Torah portion called Shoftim, which at the beginning of August we studied together during our Torah study class. And the first verse of that Torah portion, which we spent a lot of time on, as we usually do during our Torah study, has really resonated with me and has followed me really to this moment. The Torah asks us to appoint judges and scribes at the gates of our cities. In ancient times, the gate of the city was the place where we held our trials, where judgments were rendered, and oftentimes punishments were actually carried out. Nowadays, we no longer have gates in our cities. We no longer have those gates that are there to mark a separation between one physical space and another physical space. What we have these days are gates in time. You know, for example, Friday night Shabbat services, Kabbalat Shabbat service on Friday night, to me is one of those gates, one of the gates in time, a threshold to cross, entering into different kind of energies. Tonight, this evening, this time we have together for the service of Slichot is such a gate in time. We are moving into a different kind of energy. We are invited into a different kind of consciousness, a different kind of presence for ourselves in our own lives. We are entering into the energies of the high holy days tonight. And those energies are calling us into deeper introspection. They are calling us into entering into moments of deeper self-questioning. How are we doing? How is our life unfolding? And this is really a practice, this is really a journey that we get to enter into that is in fact a journey of healing. It's a journey of healing of self, but it is also a journey of healing of community, a journey of healing of our world. It is also a journey of wholing, of working towards making ourselves more whole, of completing the stories that need completing, of finishing as best we can our unfinished business. It is a journey that we take together in community, yet one that we can only travel alone, which is kind of one of the paradoxes of the high holidays. So these high holidays, as we're starting tonight, I'd like to take advantage of the time we have together to invite all of us into a three-tiered spiritual practice. We'll start tonight. Tonight is the kick-off, and we'll whatever we do tonight will carry through the next 8 days. And then a week from Sunday, we'll meet again for Rosh Hashanah Eve in this space. And we'll enter into phase 2 of our spiritual practice. And we'll have 10 days, the 10 days of awe, to deep dive into that practice. And then come together again for Kol Nidre 18 days from tonight. I love when the numbers become interesting. 18 days to be renewed, to be rechayed. You know, 18 in Hebrew is the gematria, which is a Kabbalistic tool that is connected to the word chai, which means life. There's never a mistake when the number 18 pops up. And we have exactly 18 days between now and the Kol Nidre to really make a change, to really take our life into perhaps a different direction. And on Kol Nidre, if all goes well, we'll find each other together at the top of Mount Moriah. And then we'll see what happens then. But we'll start tonight. We'll start right now. We'll start right now to take our first step on an 18-day journey. You know, what do you do when you're about to embark on a journey? The first thing you do, the first step is you pack your bags. Tonight we're going to pack our bags. Actually, that's not true. That's actually completely not true. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to unpack our baggage. We're going to unpack our baggage tonight. We're going to bring it in front of us and we're going to open it wide open. And then we're going to invite our inner scribe. You know, the one that is always at the gate, because this is a gate. We're going to invite our inner scribe, and our inner scribe with his yellow notepad, he's going to be right there with us, taking an inventory of everything that is in that baggage of ours. And we're going to pull one little piece of clothing at the time. You know, together in this space, and then the next 8 days, we're going to air out our dirty laundry right there in public. But it's not a problem. There's no shame because we're all doing it together. And so we look around and we see that, in fact, we're all engaged in this process together. All of us with our own baggage. What our scribe is going to ask us to do is to look deeply and to look fearlessly as whatever it is we found, to really assess where we are, how we are showing up in our lives, measured against the yardstick of our own principles, of our own values, not the values of someone else, not anything imposed from the outside, but the yardstick of our own values. How are we measuring up to what we are professing we hold dear? How are we doing? And our scribe is going to ask us fearlessness, but he's also going to ask us integrity. He's going to ask of us honesty. And then we're going to invite in our inner judge. But not the inner judge, that is judgmental. Not the inner judge that is condemning, sentencing. The inner judge that is discerning. The inner judge that is able to weigh the pros and the cons. That is able to split the good from the bad. The inner judge that doesn't take bribes, it says in the Torah. That is not swayed by our need to only bring to the surface those favorite character flaws that we have. The one that we find easy to deal with, the one that are comfortable, that we are used to, we can easily bring up and say, oh yeah, I want to work on that again this year. But a judge also who is not going to allow us to blame ourselves for what is not ours. A judge that is going to ask of us to be just. To not try to justify ourselves or rationalize our behavior. He's going to ask us to take responsibility for the ways we hurtfully show up in our lives. But he's going to invite us to do this with great compassion and with great care and with great empathy towards ourselves. And at the same time, he or she is going to be very mindful of us also not going down the dark path of I'm the worst human being that ever lived and nothing I can do would ever fix that kind of dark story and trip. Because the judge knows full well that that trip is also an ego trip and is not real. So that judge, that inner judge, is going to ask us to also be truthful, to be real. And that's the practice. That's the practice for this next 8 days. To evaluate, to take inventory, to look deeply. This process, this path in our tradition is called teshuvah, to return. Because our tradition holds that no matter how far we feel ourselves, we have strayed, we have fallen away from our center, our tradition tells us no one can ever be that far that it would be impossible to return. So take the first few steps to return to your own center, to return to your own true self. Join us, because we are all doing it. Because we've all walked a little bit too far away from it, and we need to come back. All of us. Everybody included. To see if we have really grown this year, or if we have kind of stagnated, or worse, maybe shrunk back. To see if on the spiritual journey we've been able to connect more deeply with Source, to walk towards the center of light within ourselves, or if we had stood still, or worse, taken a few steps back. Wherever you find yourself, there is teshuvah. There is the possibility of always climbing back onto the path. So this year, from tonight forward, don't stay in the stands. Come onto the field and play the game. I urge you and I invite you to do it at the same time. We are running out of time. I don't know if you realize that. This year is the year. So join us. We'll start immediately on page 3 in your prayer book. We'll start with a psalm of praise. Because we forget the miracle of the life around us. So a way to wake us up again to truth is to reawaken to the miracle in which we find ourselves. So join me. Ashrei, a psalm of praise. Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, od yehalelucha sela. Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo. Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Elohav. Happy are those who dwell in your house, for their hearts sing praises in your presence. Happy are the people who choose what is. Happy are the people who see all creation as the expression of the One. A Psalm of David. How wondrous the ways you manifest, Holy One. How blessed your eternal name. Every day I find more opportunities to bless in awe of your presence in my life. I sing with joy in the presence of being, within and without, everywhere and nowhere. Each generation praises the marvels of creation, bewildered by its magnificence. Anywhere I turn, I am surrounded by beauty. Words of wonder overwhelm me. Overpowering are the energies of your being that always draw me back to my center. The knowledge of your goodness enlivens me. Your righteousness stirs within me. You are gracious and merciful, endowing every soul with patience and love. Goodness is the source of all creation, compassion the ground of all existence. I am moved with infinite gratitude. blessed by the grace of your being. In all my actions, I express thankfulness for all the blessings of my world. In every being, your presence awakens, every one beautiful and worthy. Your being fills all worlds, visible and invisible, time-bound and timeless. You are the love that uplifts the downtrodden, raises up the humiliated. All eyes see but your presence everywhere. You are nourishment in every moment. In opening our hearts to your being, you satiate us beyond our will. I walk in your footsteps when I act justly, for compassion is the fabric of creation. Closer than I can ever fathom is the eternal. You are the truth behind all experiences. You await at the end of all desires, beyond the chatter of the mind. You are the love that guards us along the way, that tears down the walls of our delusions. I will praise the Holy One, for in the heart of all beings is your name forever engraved. Va'anachnu nevarechya me'ata ve'ad olam. Hallelujah. And we will bless the Eternal One, now and always. Hallelujah. Bless you. At the top of page 4, we are about to sing the Shehechianu. Shehechianu is one of the most common blessings in Jewish tradition. We say that blessing every time we do something new. We say that blessing every year when something that is on a cycle comes around, and here we are again. We say Shehechianu when we find new fruits that are also seasonal. We say Shehechianu when we buy new clothes. We say Shehechianu at the beginning of every holiday. The Shehechianu is like a mezuzah. You know, a mezuzah is what we have left, really, of the physical crossing of gates. We put that on the doorposts of our homes. And as we cross the threshold from one physical space to another, we make contact with the mezuzah to remind us of the sacredness of the space in which we are about to enter, as well as the sacredness of the place we are about to leave. Inside of mezuzah are the words of the Shema, the words of oneness and words of love. The Shehechianu is a mezuzah in time. It is a blessing we say to usher us into a different time. Let's read the English together and then we'll sing the Hebrew. Blessed One, you are the emptiness that manifests as form. You are the life within us. You support and sustain us on our unique path and bring us to this moment for blessing. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higiyanu b'zman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higiyanu b'zman hazeh.
And we continue with the Havdalah service, still on page 4. The Havdalah is really the moment. If the Shechianu is the mezuzah, the Havdalah is the threshold. The Havdalah is moving through the doorway. You know, as I light the candle, since you are now sitting, it would be nice if we could just do the melody of the Havdalah, just to remind ourselves of how it works. And if we could dim the lights as well. Actually, if we could have the space really dark. No? The other dark. Like really pitch black. No more dark? There you go. Because we have the Havdalah candle. And you won't be able to read the blessings, but I'll tell you what they are. So you don't have to worry about it. You can let your booklet on the side. Havdalah means transition, means separation in Hebrew. It is a time that traditionally is there at the end of Shabbat as we leave the Shabbat state of consciousness and enter into a weekday consciousness. And every Saturday night, as the sun goes down in Jewish homes, this is the short rituals that is taking place. And you'll see as we go through the ritual itself that what we do is that we call up all the senses of the body, because we leave a soul space and move into the physical space again. That is the idea behind it. So we awaken one after the other all of our senses. It's like when you go scuba diving, you don't just pop to the surface in one step. You have to go and do several stages before you can completely emerge. And this is what we're doing. Each step we are moving a little bit more and more out of the space called Shabbat. But on this night, we're not leaving the space of Shabbat and the consciousness of Shabbat. We are also entering into the consciousness and the awareness of high holidays. So we are leaving one heightened space and entering into another one. And we have different tools. One that we have is to share blessing over wine. We share blessing over wine as we enter into Shabbat, and we share blessing over wine as we leave Shabbat. We share blessing over wine at a time of a wedding, for example. And Havdalah has a lot of connections with weddings. We lit light at the beginning of Shabbat, and we lit light coming out of Shabbat. All gates of transition. For Havdalah, like we do for a Jewish wedding, and here's another connection. we say the blessing over the wine. And in a Jewish wedding, we have to wait for 6 more blessings as part of the Sheva Brachot, of the 7 blessings, before we drink the wine. At a Havdalah, we do the same. We share the blessing of the wine first, but then we put the cup down, do the other blessings, and only at the end do we drink from the cup. What we are blessing is not the destination. It's not the end. It's the journey. What we are blessing is the process. Because the process of these high holidays is what matters. Where we find ourselves at the end of Yom Kippur, who knows? In fact, we are asked to let go of any attachment of how our destination, what our destination will look like. Because if we begin this process holding in mind the way we want it to end, we won't be arriving at all. In fact, we won't have started. We have to let the energies that are present in our lives over the next 18 days seed within us whatever is yearning to be met. And it might not meet us at Yom Kippur, but that's okay because we have 8 more days of Sukkot. And he might not meet us at the end of Sukkot. He might meet us the 9th day at Simchat Torah, which will be exactly a month from today, October 1st. So let go of needing to know what will meet you at the end of the Havdalah, at the end of the high holidays, and surrender into the process. Let go into the flow of the energies that are waiting for you to bathe in. The blessing is Borei Pri Hagafen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen.
Next is the blessing over spices. In the darkness of the room, I'm going to send around some little bags of spices. Your job is to smell the flowers, to let yourself be reawakened. You know, the sense of smell is one of those senses that we are shocked at first when we encounter it, and then it is the first sense that we grow unconscious of. We enter into a room and it has a special smell. And then we are in that room for 5 minutes and we no longer can smell it. It's become part of us. So this is a way for us to wake ourselves up. In our tradition, the word for spices, in Kabbalah, there is a ranking of spices. There's a ranking of spices, and the highest of all spices, did you get it over there? I was going to come to the sinkers. Pat, sit behind you. I just can't see, it's too dark, which is what you want. There's a hierarchy of spices. Every spice is ranked on a different level of consciousness. The highest of all spices is the spice called myrrh. And myrrh is when sages, our sages, talk about an enlightened rabbi, an enlightened being, they compare the rabbi or the enlightened being to a person who embodies pure myrrh. So may we all rise to become pure myrrh these high holy days. The blessing is Boré Mine Vesamim. Yai dai da 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 yai da 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 yai da 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei vesamim borei minei vesamim. The next blessing is the blessing of the light. I'm going to take a risk this year. I'm going to do it. I'm going to stand right here. The blessing is the blessing of the light. You know, it's always very important for us, you know, even when we light the candles for Shabbat, that we remember that what we are blessing is not the candle. What we are blessing is the light. And the reason is because we get confused. We think that the object is what carries the light, where in fact it is the light that infuses the object. And it's like the Havdalah candle is us. You know, at some level we are this multi-breaded, twisted being that tries to rise up to the light of its being. But that's a mistake. You know, we say that we have a soul, right? Like, by saying we have a soul, we are saying we are the candle that has the light. The truth is we are the light that has a candle. You see that? We are soul that manifests as matter. And that's why we bless the light. We bless the light as a way to remind ourselves that that is what we are. That we get confused thinking we are the candle. So the tradition has us cup our hands, like so. That's why I came here in the middle. I can't be close to everybody, but if you can, cup your hands so that your fingernails reflect the light of the candle, while the candle itself is casting a shadow on the palm of your hand. The image is that at this level, we can only see the reflection of the light. We can only see the reflection of the light. And what we also are seeing in our world at this level of consciousness is that the reflection of the light also casts a dark shadow. And that's the reality of living in a dualistic consciousness. But what we also are realizing is both the reflected light on our fingernails and the shadow on the palm of our hands come from the same one light. They are not two. They are one thing. Everything arises from the light. Everything is light manifest. The blessing is Boré Meoré Ha'esh. Boré Meoré Ha'esh. Now I'm going to try to find the steps. It's almost like on Passover when I go around my house with a candle looking for the chametz. The next blessing is the Havdalah blessing. And perhaps we can bring the lights back on just very dimly, though. The Havdalah blessing is the blessing that blesses this moment of transition. If you want the words, they are, and if you can read, they are at the bottom of page 4. We bless this moment of transition that we may begin this process of meeting whatever is waiting for us these high holy days, of creating spaciousness in our hearts, of creating possibilities, because if we stay closed, nothing will be able to bloom within ourselves. All that is required of us is to show up and to create spaciousness, to make ourselves available to receiving what is waiting. So let's bless this moment of transition. The blessing is Hamavdil. You know what? We're going to do the English first at the bottom of the page, and then the blessing, which will be Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol. Blessed One, you are the emptiness that manifests as form, the source of all that is, the one who distinguishes the holy from the ordinary, the light from the dark, the spiritual path of the people called Israel from the spiritual path of other peoples, the seventh day of rest from the 6 days of creating. Blessed One, you are the emptiness that manifests as form, the one who separates that which is holy from that which is yet to be holy. Hamavdil ben Kodesh lechol. The painful part, the part where we extinguish the candle into the remaining wine. I don't think we extinguished the candle, you know. I think we are entering into a space where the light of being becomes hidden in the container of our existence. So we immerse the light into the container, but the light is still in there, but now it is hidden. And it is our job through these high holidays to uncover the light again.
Tishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi. Shavua Tov, 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 Shavua Tov. A good week, a week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. Shavua Tov, 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 Shavua Tov.
We're in the middle of page 5. We say together, we call out together the 13 qualities of God's name. But this is addressed to us. This is addressed to our own true self. The name is our name. The qualities are our qualities. There is no God out there with qualities. God awakens through each and every one of us. God needs us to act as channels for those qualities to manifest into creation. So join me. Holy One of Being, embodiment of compassion and grace, you address us one by one, support us in understanding our limitations, forgive our iniquities, and pass over our too blatant mistakes. You expunge the many instances when we have found ourselves missing the mark, and welcome back all those who stray. You deal righteously with every breathing being, and do not dwell on our too human flaws. Long ago you taught us a new song, the song of the 13 qualities of your name. Remember this song today as you did in that ancient wilderness, as it is recounted in your Torah, when your Spirit descended in a cloud upon him and enwrapped him in its glory. And there it is said that he experienced your presence and heard a voice calling, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzer Chesed La'alafim, Nosei Avon V'Fesha, V'Chata'a V'Nakeh. The eternal, God of compassion and grace, patience, unending loving kindness and truth, bearing love for 1,000 generations, cleansing and forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. Here's one of my favorite moments in this evening's service. Every year we get to change the garb of our Torah. Our Torah dresses one way during the year, but she dresses a very different way for the high holidays. And so every year we have this little ritual where we get to see her change garb. And I'd love to invite, actually, for this year, the two co-chairs of the high holidays. It takes a village to put these high holidays together, and it takes great leadership to make sure that everything actually unfolds the way it needs to unfold. And we have Cindy and we have Ricky, who have been our co-chairs now for a couple years. I'd love to invite them to join me here and help me change the Torah's garb. In the meantime, I invite you all to please rise as we open the ark. So please take the Torah out of the ark. And first undress her. Our Torah changes from a cover that says Adonai Echad, the Holy One is one. Because during the rest of the year, we really need every reminder we can find. And it's changing into Yehi Or, which means may there be light. May there be light in our high holidays this year. May we find clarity in mind and in heart. May we know the light within ourselves. Yes. Good. You can hold on to that. We are on the top of page 6. We're going to say the words of the Shema, the words that are inscribed on this scroll and every scroll that has ever been inked and written for thousands of years. Join me. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Listen, Israel, the Eternal manifests as all that is. The Eternal is one. Amen. And for the first time, these high holidays, we hear the high holiday melody for the Shema. If you could place the Torah back in the ark. We continue with Shema Kolenu. We'll read the English together and then listen to the chanting. And you're welcome to close your eyes and let the chanting of the Shema Kolenu flow through you as our singers lead us. But we say in English first. Listen to our voice, Eternal One of Being. Show us kindness and compassion, and receive our prayers with kind-heartedness and goodwill. And right below, return us to you, Holy One, and we shall return. Renew our lives as you've done before.
Shema
What we're going to do now is we're going to reprise the last sentence, the Hashivenu. And we're going to use one of the most powerful melodies that meets us during these high holidays. This time, you are invited, you are asked to lead and lend your voice to this song. This is one where you need to jump in and dive in. It's one where we're also going to dim the lights. It's one that if you want, you can cover your head with your prayer shawl if you came with one tonight. Because this is one of those unique melodies of the high holidays. A mournful melody, a yearning melody. We ask, Hashivenu, return us. Turn us back, Holy One, because we can't do it on our own. We can't do it on our own. So we beg. We beg to find the energies within us to make that journey. To make that journey back towards our heart. To make that journey back towards our center. We ask to be supported. We ask to be held. We're going to take the time we need to take with this song. So if at some point you feel that you need to sit down, please do so for your own health. But if you can't remain standing, this is one of those where you want to remain standing. Hashivenu.
Adonai, Elech
Please be seated. And then the lights come back into the sanctuary. I invite you to turn to page 7 in your prayer book. We enter into the annual recitation, the litany of the Al-Chet. Here it says, for all our sins. You know, the word sin is the worst translation of the Hebrew chet. I have said that every high holidays, and I will probably say it every high holiday as long as God breatheth me. The word chet is in Hebrew an archery term. It means to miss the mark. We miss the mark when we act in our life, when we act in our world, off-centered. Chet is really at some level the opposite of the word mitzvah. The word mitzvah comes from the Aramaic root tzav, which means connected. When we do a mitzvah, we act in a way that is connected to our deepest center, to our true light, to our true self. We act in the world from that center. We can only act in compassionate, caring, loving ways. Chet is the opposite of that, is to act in the world from a place that is collapsed into the delusion of identifying with ego. A chet pushes us, if that is at all possible, but let's use the image just for the sake of argument. A chet is an action that pushes us away from our center, that causes us to forget truth. This litany of recitation is what we would call Jewish confession. There's only a few times where we Jews confess, and we don't confess to any particular being or person. We really talk to ourselves. This is about breaking down the walls of denial. This is about taking responsibility for ourselves, for our actions, for the hurtful ways we show up in a world. So I don't even know if the word confession is the right word either. It's an acknowledgement. It's the opening of the baggage. And it's the deep looking, the fearless looking. And it's the list, that our scribe is writing as he or she is taking inventory. He, she, or they are taking inventory of what we find in this baggage of ours. We find in these words year after year revealed to us all the hurtful ways we need to control. Need to control the moment, need to control the other, need to control the experience. All the hurtful way we seek to defend. All the ways we are right. All the ways we know better. There's a beautiful poem by Yehuda Amichai who talks about those places we are right. And I'm completely paraphrasing because I don't know the poem by heart, but basically he's saying that in all the places we are right, nothing grows. Nothing grows. So open the bag and see this year, I say that every year, how many of those sentences are still true from last year. We read those words exactly in the same order at least 3 times last year during the high holidays, that we will this year. And every time I look at them and I say, oh my God, I should know better. I should know better. How come I didn't get it last year? How come I fell prey again to the same patterns, the same hurtful patterns? How many years is it going to take me? How many high holidays is it going to take me? The good news is because all of us have the same experience. It keeps rabbis employed, because you have to come back every year and do it all over again, as I do. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, for the sin we have sinned before you. We, not I. See, this is not about I, this is about us. We share a communal experience. We use in Hebrew the word we. This is universal human experience. It's all of us. For the sin we have sinned before you, you, the true self, hidden underneath the klipots, the husks of ego, that mistaken sense of identity, that conditioned self of ours that keep acting out in those ways. Please rise. We start in the English. Our God and God of our fathers and mothers, we are not so insolent as to claim that we are without failing. We join in the ancient litany of confession as a community, as we have done for generations. For all the moments when with our actions, our words, our thoughts, our feelings, and our images, we denied the life that is our life. God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, and grant us atonement. We'll start directly with the prayer. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha be'imutz halev, for the sin we have sinned before you by hardening our hearts to the feelings of others. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bivli da'at, for the sin we have sinned before you because we lacked knowledge of the consequences of our actions. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha begilui arayot, for the sin we have sinned before you through acting against our own morality. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bagalui uvasater, for the sin we have sinned before you openly or in secret. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha beda'at uvmirma, for the sin we have sinned before you knowingly and deceitfully. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bedibur peh, for the sin we have sinned before you through speech. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bedhonaat re'ah, for the sin we have sinned before you through deceiving another person. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bezadon uvishgaga, for the sin we have sinned before you consciously or unconsciously. Ve'al kulam Eloha slichot, slach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. For all of them, God of forgiveness, forgive us, release us, grant us atonement. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha belatzon, for the sin we have sinned before you through scorning others. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bechozek yad, for the sin we have sinned before you by hurtfully exercising power. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bilshon hara, for the sin we have sinned before you by hurting others through our speech. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'masa uvmatan, for the sin we have sinned before you through dishonest and hurtful business dealings. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha beflilut, for the sin we have sinned before you in judging others and ourselves unfairly. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bekashiyut oref, for the sin we have sinned before you through being obstinate. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בשנאת חינם. For the sin we have sinned before you by hating too easily. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתימהון לבב. For the sin we have sinned before you through not knowing our own heart. ועל כולם אלוהה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. For all of them, God of forgiveness, forgive us, release us, grant us atonement. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, for the sin we have sinned before you by failing to work toward peace. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, for the sin we have sinned before you by keeping silence in the face of injustice. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, for the sin we have sinned before you by not acting to relieve the suffering of those in distant lands. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, for the sin we have sinned before you by not caring for the poor in our midst. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, for the sin we have sinned before you by not acting to protect our fragile environment. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, for the sin we have sinned before you by indulging ourselves while others suffer. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, for the sin we have sinned before you by being unclear about our priorities in the life you have given us. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, for the sin we have sinned before you by being closed to your presence in our lives. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך, ועל כולם אלוהה סליחות, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. For all of them, God of forgiveness, forgive us, release us, grant us atonement. Please be seated. I want to spend a little moment with the Al Chet still. Oftentimes, in the pews, there is little pieces of paper and little pencils. If you have one in front of you, you might want to grab one. Or if you came tonight with something to write with, you might want to take that out of wherever bag you have. I'd like to invite you just for a moment to look at this list again. To find maybe one or two that are most resonating with you this year. One or two that you feel called upon to not have next year as part of your list. And then if none of those connect with you, the last one is left blank. It's left blank so that you can find that one or two not in this list that this year you want to really work on. What is bubbling up at the top of your baggage as you look deeply? What is the hurtful way that you want to change, that you want not to change, that you want to erase from your conditioning? And then at the end, I'll give you a tip on how to do that. Let's take 5 minutes. Just 2. Let's be reasonable. Maybe even 1. Let's be honest with ourselves. Another minute. You found it? Good. So whatever you decided upon, that 1, maybe 2, really 1 would be plenty, but our sages tell us there's a whole branch of Judaism called Musar. And Musar is a branch of Judaism that deals specifically with counteracting our conditioning, freeing ourselves from our conditioning. And it is, at first, you really do this exercise, trying to find the character traits, the ways we manifest in the world that are hurtful to self and others. And once we have found that 1, and you go through, over time you can go through more, but when we found at least 1, the sages are telling us that we are not to actually fight against that 1. Because whatever we resist persists. Our sages tell us that instead of fighting that 1 negative character trait, we have to find what the opposite character trait is and practice that. So let me give you an example. If one of the character trait is I am a little bit how do you say that? I like to not spend. What do you call that? I'm a frugal, yeah, thrifty, miser. Is that the word I'm looking for? Practice gratitude and practice generosity. That's what you do. You practice generosity. You practice the opposite. So whatever you found there, whatever is calling you, don't try to fight that. Practice the opposite character trait. That's it. As simple and difficult as that. What stops us from engaging in those kinds of practices is fear. It's a real paradox, you know. Because we know that we have all of those challenging, let's call them character traits. And they're at the same time have become so much part of who we are. You know, so much of us wants to say, well, you know what, that's who I am, and deal with it. That's just me. That's just me. And we hide behind take me as I am, if you really love me. What we are actually saying is, I am afraid. I'm afraid if I let go of those parts of self that I know or feel define me, I'm afraid that I won't know who I am anymore. Who am I if I am not that hurtful person? No, because when we oftentimes act in hurtful ways, it's because we want to reclaim power. We feel we have lost power and we want to reclaim it. And we are afraid to find out who we are if we don't have those. But our decision is whether we want our life to be led by fear or by love. And I'm going to venture to say that when we let go of those parts of self we fear to lose, we actually find that we are more than what we used to be, not less. The next song, Adonai Ori, is a song that is inviting us to let go of those fears and to surrender into the light of oneness that guides us in this process of personal growth and transformation. Adonai Ori Veyishi. The Holy One is my light. In a moment, we will close our service, Slichot, of the 5779 Holy Days. Turning to page 7 for the Ribono Shel Olam, and then listening to the sound of the shofar. But before we do so, I just wanted to share several announcements, reminders. It is our custom during Yom Kippur and during our memorial service to read out loud the names of those who have made their transition from this past Yom Kippur, from the last year's Yom Kippur. At Bet Alef, we keep track of the names of those you put on our lists throughout the year. If there are names that you know that are not on this list, I would invite you to please connect with our office next week to make sure that the names you want to hear read are added to our Yizkor service. I am aware that besides Rosh Hashanah Eve, which will be Sunday night, a week from Sunday, the rest of the high holy days are weekdays. And if you need a note from your rabbi to bring to work, let me know, because I would be more than happy to do so. And I'm saying that half jokingly because it is very important. You don't realize how important it is. See, we don't live in LA and we don't live in New York. In the Northwest, the Jewish faith is at best in a very far back of anybody's mind. I mean, we're still fighting year after year with our own school system where our kids are going to make sure nothing is scheduled for Yom Kippur. Even this year, again, one of the activities was scheduled Rosh Hashanah Day. Because if we ourselves don't tell the world, here in the Northwest, this is a Jewish holy day, and I won't be at work, or I won't be at school, there is no way anybody is ever going to know and ever going to learn. So make a point. Make a point to come and let everybody know. They have their holidays. We need to have ours as well. Okay, done for my soapbox. We, as every high holidays, are doing a food drive. We actually are one of the smallest communities in Seattle that actually bring to the food bank the most food. So we are counting on you this year again to do what Bet Alef does justice. There are going to be bags for you to bring non-perishable foods. We'll gather them, and after the high holidays, we will drive them to the Jewish Family Service Food Bank. So please, as you come to the next services, bring with you non-perishable foods. Good. We are on page 7. The Ribono Shel Olam is actually a nightly prayer in our tradition. As we go to bed, we say this prayer, we say the Shema, and the Shema actually are the last words we are to say at the end of the day. If someone starts to talk to you and you have to talk to them after you've said Shema, you have to start again. Really, the Shema is the last words you are to say at the end of each day. The tradition is that those are the last words you are to say in the moment of your death. This prayer that we say every night before going to bed is a practice of forgiveness. It is a prayer that seeks to awaken within us the desire to forgive those who today have hurt us, It is a prayer that is there to allow us as well to forgive ourselves for the hurt we have caused today. So, Mark is going to do the Hebrew in the back. I'm going to invite you to please rise for this. And then if you want to cover yourself with a prayer shawl, as soon as we will be done, the shofar will sound in our space.
Ribono Shalom, 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 Ribono Shalom.
Join me in the English. Ruling presence of the universe, I now forgive all who have hurt me, all who have done me wrong, whether deliberately or by accident, whether by words, by deed, or by thought, whether against my pride, my person, or my property, in this incarnation or in any other. May no one be punished on my account. And may it be thy will, eternal one, who is my God and the God of my fathers and mothers, that I be no more bound by the wrongs that I have committed, that I be free from patterns that cause pain to me and to others, that I no longer do that which is evil in thy sight. May my past failings be wiped away in your great mercy, eternal one. And may they no longer manifest through pain and suffering. Let my words, my thoughts, my meditations, and my acts flow from the fullness of your being, eternal one, source of my being and my Redeemer. Ribono shel olam, Ribono shel olam, Ribono shel olam, Ribono shel olam. And we begin to say, Lishana Tova.
Lishana, Lishana Tova, Lishana, Lishana Tova, Lishana שנה טובה לישראל ולעמים.
Shavua Tov.